Hello, this is Stephen Vincent with the Freedom Message from Monday, October 8th, 2007. What I'd like to speak to you about today is momentum. We have momentum right now at this time, at this critical historical juncture in the history of our country and in fact our world. The Ron Paul Freedom Movement has gained incredible momentum. We are at the point of breaking out into the political quote-unquote mainstream, and we are right now in the process of transforming the political landscape of America. Now, this is something that you are doing together with Ron Paul, you and I and everyone else who has taken up the mantle of the freedom message. We are affecting actual change in the political process, in the political life of the nation. And this is evidenced by recent coverage that we have received in the establishment media. Now, if you had told me several months back that we would receive any positive coverage in the establishment media, that I would have disputed that. I would have said no, they're all completely bought off. They're all establishment hacks. They are all going to denigrate the freedom message, Dr. Paul, and truth in general. They will not allow someone like Dr. Paul to be seen in a positive light. And I would have made that a blanket statement. I would have told you that trying to reach the mainstream media, or I should rather use the term establishment media, and use it for our purposes would be fruitless, and that we would need to follow an alternative strategy. Well, what has happened? We have followed an alternative strategy. We have used our means at our disposal, as I'm using a means at my disposal right now to communicate with you. We have used many such means to great effect, to such effect that in fact we have penetrated, we have penetrated the, I almost said mainstream again. I really want to shift to establishment media blockade. So we have. Now, let's see, how have we, and what is the evidence of such a statement? Well, just in the last 2 or 3 days, we've had from Joe Scarborough, Jack Cafferty, George Will, and Tucker Carlson significant statements of support. They really can't be interpreted as anything other than support for Dr. Paul and his message. Now, these are major media, establishment media figures. So I think maybe the time has come for us to distinguish between the establishment media and its employees. Now, certainly, there are those who are so bought into the system, they will simply do and say as they are told without any equivocation, and we will never get them to admit the legitimacy. And, well, I shouldn't say that. They will never willingly admit the legitimacy of the Ron Paul message or of the movement springing from that message. They won't. There are those such as, I would say, George Stephanopoulos. George Stephanopoulos would qualify as one of those. There are so many more that it wouldn't be worth listing them, but it's easy to see that there are those who have been touched by Ron Paul and his message and our enthusiasm for it. I think that there are those in the establishment media who have yearned to see the day when the American public would come alive politically and would become active and would care about what they have to say, in a sense, care about their realm, their work. I would imagine that many of them have felt somewhat disheartened that their life's work doesn't seem to really affect people, and that now that what they're doing matters to people. Finally, people care about politics again. Why? Because of the freedom message, because of Ron Paul. It took Ron Paul to make that happen, and they're recognizing it, and they're saying, you know what, this is a good thing. The sleeping giant of the American people has awoken, and they are supporting it. Now, some examples: Joe Scarborough the other day came on his show the second time on Morning Joe that I know of, and there may be other incidents where he has pretty much endorsed Dr. Paul. Jack Cafferty, on several occasions in the last few days, has all but endorsed Dr. Ron Paul for president. I think that these figures are somewhat limited by the position that they're in, that they're journalists and they have to be somewhat impartial, unbiased, but certainly significant statements of support from both of these major media figures. On Good Morning America yesterday morning, this statement at the top of the show by the ABC anchor saying, Ron Paul, bona fide grassroots sensation. And really saying that with enthusiasm and with meaning behind it. A bona fide grassroots sensation. That's significant. That means something. That means that either such figures are being forced to admit that this is happening and that this is the case, or they willingly have been swayed by Dr. Paul, swayed by our enthusiasm, swayed by the evidence of the awakening sleeping giant of the American people. And this means something. George Will. Now, I probably would have told you George Will is an establishment media hack. And yet, he has made significant statements saying that Ron Paul is for real. And that he asked in reference to a poll, one of the establishment polls about Iowa, where Ron Paul was not listed. He said, well, where's my man Ron Paul? My man Ron Paul, from George Will. No, if you had told me even a